What does talent mean? I think talent is, has a very difficult meaning because it's very difficult to identify talent, and I think talent in a way is very personal. I would say talent is the outcome, and in Belgium we no longer speak of talent when it comes to identification, we speak of potential. And potential has to be developed, and that's why talent identification is always linked to talent development. And once you have developed that talent, that potential, I would rather say, well, it can turn into a talented player or not. But talent is always the outcome, it's never the beginning of it. The point now is, how can we identify potential? And therefore, we need first to define what our potential is, what potential is for us. If we compare, for example, Spain or England or Belgium or Czechia, we will all have a different meaning of what our potential is. If I refer, for example, to what Spain does, they try to identify at the age of 13 as many players as possible that would fit into their idea of what a potential player for the national Spanish team is. This does not necessarily mean that those who do not fit at that moment into that model of what is a perfect potential for the Spanish Federation, well, maybe they will still become professional footballers, but in another context. So from there, we have to first define what our DNA is, what our definition is of a potential player, because we all have an idea of what the potential talented player is or will become. Also very important, and a very big mistake that we often make, is we identify at the age of 12, 13, 14 what the best players of that moment are, but we forget that we do not need to identify the best under 12, under 13, under 14 players. We must identify those players who have the best potential at the age of 12, 13, 14 to become the best players when they will be 20 to 25. And therefore, we also need to identify what our idea is or what football will be in 10 years' time. So we do not have to identify talent on what the criteria of a talented player is now when we come to identify younger players, but what the next generation of players will be. And therefore, once again, it is difficult because everybody has an idea of what it will be, but we don't have a clear and definite definitions of what it will be in 10 years' time. The key points are, of course, they need to be physically athletes. This was not the case maybe 30, 40 years ago, but now if you look at international matches, everybody who plays at that level are athletes, real athletes. So there are some athletic criteria that we need to find. You also have, they need to be technically almost perfect. They need to have very good technique. But this is something that you can learn, that you can work on. So these are the bases. So we now are looking for what is going to make a difference. And what is the thing that goes to make a difference? Because in the next World Cup, for example, there will be 48 countries participating. Every match is possible that the best team doesn't win, because all over the world now we're working well on football, because all the countries have the good ideas about how you prepare players. So we're no longer looking about to or after what is going to be a good player. We are looking about looking after what is going the player that will make a difference. And therefore we have, to me, that is my personal opinion, 2 or 3 new criteria that have come into action over the last years, and that is players who make the right decisions under pressure and who are creative. Being creative is doing something that is unexpected for the opponent. So, and these are the players that we absolutely want to identify. But if we want to identify them, and then I come back to the part of the development of the player, we also must adapt our development model and give them opportunities to be creative, give them opportunities to make the right decisions. And one step further is, do we in our exercises give the opportunity to make decisions, to be creative? Or are we what I called the FIFA game coach who is always telling what the player has to do? If you always tell the player what he has to do, he will not develop creative players. And when he will be in a situation that is unexpected, he will not be able to adapt. So that is, to me, you have the basic criteria, of course the technical one, the tactical ones, the basics, recognizing a situation. And then from there on, what is the player that will make a difference? What is the player that will make you win the matches? And then we often think about attackers, but also what is the defender that will be creative enough to make you win a match? What is the identity of a goalkeeper that will be creative and give you the opportunity to win matches? And also, yes, when we are speaking about creativity, decision making, also the winning mentality. Have the players a winning mentality? Therefore, are they resilient? Because in every career of every football player, there is a moment when he is a substitute, he doesn't play, he's injured. How does he react to that? And resilience is also one of the personality points that is very important in observing players. Once you have identified your DNA, once you have the players that you think or you believe fit into that plan, well, then you also have to be creative in developing them. And you absolutely need to start from the ending point. What is the player that we want to develop? Because we believe that this player with these characteristics will be the player of 2035 in 10 years' time. It's okay, we have 10 years to develop him. So at each stage, what are the topics we are going to work on? And therefore, you need to know a lot about development and growth of players, boys, girls, because it's different. How do they develop in their physical aspects? How do they develop in their brain aspects? Because there are a lot of study that is done now on how the brain develops, but you must absolutely take that into account into how a brain develops to give them the right exercises, the right input at the right age. For example, at the age of 6 or 7, it is absolutely no use to let them play together, because at that age the brain is not able to cooperate with other people. If you take the reference of school, for example, at nursery school, they never do exercises together. And we want them to play 5-a-side or 8-a-side at the age of 6 or 7. No, at that age, it's absolutely individual development. Other ages, you have more to, for example, the golden age, under 8, under 9 to under 12, 13, is they want to learn to play football. Well, if at that period they want to learn, give them input that will help them to learn the game. Later on, they need to learn to win the game. But don't learn them to win the game at the age of 8, because that is not really part of what they are looking for. But at the age of 16, 17, you must learn them to win. But if you want to learn them to win, have you learned them to play before that? So learn them to love the game, learn them to love to learn the game, learn them to play the game against each other and with other people, and at the end, learn them to win the game. So these are, to me, the 5 important stages of development. And all your development plan will have to fit into that model, because the brain develops in another way that the physical aspects develop in another way. So take into account physical development, take into account mental development, take into account your ending point, what is your ideal player, and from these 3 topics, create your development plan.